What's going on, everybody? It's Fearless here, and today we're going to take a look at how to make some dope but simple trap drums. Alright, once you apply all the concepts that I'm going to be sharing in this video, every single time you're going to be able to just slap all these bad boys together, and you're going to have some amazing drums. So let's get right into these secrets. Alright, so the first secret is to make sure you're using good samples. And I know you probably hear this time and time again, but you can polish a turd, but it's still gonna be a piece of shit. Remember that. So you need to make sure that you're always starting with a good sample. Otherwise, you can add things to it, compressors, different things like that, and it's just never gonna be how you want it to sound. The second secret is to make sure that you have a soft clipper on your master. This is going to let you push your drums past the 0 dB point so that they can smack harder and cause a little bit of distortion, which is how you achieve most of the sounds you get today from some of the bigger producers that you hear. The third secret is to make sure your drums has an EQ on it. Basically what I do here is I route all my drums to a drum channel, and then I have this EQ, and all I do on this EQ is I raise the highs just a little bit. When you have the 808 slapping and your instruments playing, it's going to cut out some of the highs that you have in your instruments, and it's going to get muddied up a little bit. So when you throw this EQ on there and you boost the highs again, it's going to let those drums shine again. It's going to let them stick out above everything else. So I basically have this EQ on my drum channel, and then I only turn it on after I have them all set up. So we'll look at that later and we can tell, you'll be able to see the difference. So let's get in here and start making some drums. This is the melody that we have going right now. Okay, so we're going to start off with the clap first, and then we're also going to layer that with the snare. And make sure with your drums that you're putting the velocity up all the way here so that they're hitting as hard as they possibly can. It's this little thing down here if you don't know already. Alright, so now we're going to layer this with the snare. So we can take this right here and we can copy this MIDI clip over to our snare. And then we find a good snare sound that we like. So usually what I do is I make the clap a little bit lower than the snare. The snare is usually the louder one, and the clap just kind of fills in some of the background noise. So let's do that really quick. And then once I have the levels about right, what I do is I actually group them together. And then I can control them as a unit, so I don't have to keep adjusting both of them and making sure that it sounds right together. So now that I have it in a group here, let's name it clap, just so we know. And then we can go ahead and adjust it, turn it down. Perfect, let's move on to the next step. Okay, so for the next step, I'm going to do another snare, but it's going to be an offset to our original clap snare combo here. So I'm just going to play it in with the keyboard. There's a bunch of different places that you can put this in. Just do wherever you like it, and you can hear where I'm going to put it in so you know for reference. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to put in is an open hi-hat. Alright, now we're going to get into these hi-hats here. Okay, so for the hi-hats, I usually start with the two-step, like we got going on right here. And then I go ahead and I fill in some triplets, make some cool patterns. Okay, so once you have 4 bars that sounds good, that you're happy with, now we can go in here and we can change some of the velocities around to make it sound more realistic. So basically I'm just going to... So basically for these notes that are straight to the floor, I'm just going to change them a little bit, some of them a little bit lower, some of them a little bit higher than the others. And for these rolls right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start high and then I'm going to transcend downward like this. So I'm going to make kind of like a downhill slant. It's going to give it some characteristic to it as well. So I'll be right back with that. Okay guys, so I went in here and I changed up some of the velocities. As you can see, they're a little bit changed. There's nothing too drastic going on, but it's going to give it a little bit of feel to it and sound more human. Okay, so once you're happy with that, now we're gonna make this 8 bars, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this over here. And we're just gonna change up where some of this different things are happening, right? So I might put this a little bit earlier. Put that right there. May switch this up a little bit right here. May get rid of this, put these two up. Maybe drag this one down. Just doing a couple different things here. And then we're gonna see how this sounds after we change it up a little bit. Make sure it sounds okay, and then we'll call it good. Perfect, that sounds really awesome. I'm actually really liking this, so now we can move on to the next part. Alright guys, so now we have our basic drums. The next part's going to be the 808 and then lastly the kick. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and offset these a little bit so that they're not all playing dead center in the middle. Basically, we're going to want our kick and 808 to be the very center thing here and give it room, so we're just going to offset these a little bit. So for the hi-hat, I'm just going to do it a little bit to the right. For the open hi-hat, I'm going to do a little more to the right. For our clap combo here, we're going to move this a little bit to the left. And our offset snare here, even more to the left. So now they're a little bit off center. Everything's going to have a little bit of room. Alright, so now we can move on to the 808. Okay, we're going to do this 808 assuming that you didn't make the melody yourself. Maybe you just have the scale that it's in. So for me, my scale is A, so we're basically going to start on the A note. Now a really good way to set this up is to go an octave higher than you normally would and start playing with the notes from there. So I'm going to start with our root note here and we're going to build it from there. And basically, since we're playing with this an octave higher than we normally would, we can tell that it's going to sound right because it'll sound off immediately just because we have more harmonics in the 808 when it's up an octave higher than normal. Alright, and once you're thinking it sounds pretty good, you can go ahead and take your notes and put them down the octave that they should be on and take a listen, and if everything sounds right, you're in business. Alright guys, so we're actually going to make our 808s into 8 bars as well, and we're just going to switch up just a little bit, kind of like what we did with the hi-hats, except we're going to keep the pattern relatively the same here. So really the only thing I'm going to do is change up this ending part right here. We're probably going to make it a little more crazy. So actually let's just play the last 4 bars here. So what you can do is you can slide this thing over so that you have the last 4 bars, and we're just going to make the ending kind of go ballistic here. Alright guys, so I switched out the 808 for one that's a little bit harder here, and I'm going to adjust the levels a little bit because it's smacking too hard. So. And if your 808 isn't sounding really right or some things are clashing, make sure that you're cutting the lows out of your melody as well. Usually somewhere around the 150 to 200 hertz is the best spot so that you have room for your 808 to really shine and take up the bottom section of your beat there. Alright, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do the kick here, and the kick's really easy. We're just going to have a simple pattern that repeats over and over again that aligns with the 808. Alright guys, like we talked about earlier, we're going to take this EQ now with a little bit of highs raised up and listen to the difference. So this is without it. Then we'll add it in here on the next set. So you can hear immediately that the hi-hats and the snare just come back to life. You can hear them again. Alright guys, so that's how you get some banging drums in Ableton. Hope you caught a little tips in there that you can use in your own production to make it even better. But anyways guys, this is going to conclude the tutorial. If you like that, go ahead and like this video for me and give me a subscribe if you're new here. We're uploading new tutorials every single week to help you get better at your music production game. Alright guys, anyways, that wraps it up. And I'll see you guys again in the next one. Peace out.